So I've played a little bit of Terraria over the years, and one thing I love is all the different and interesting challenges you can do in the game. By intentionally limiting yourself, you can experience Terraria in a whole new way and discover things you never knew about the game. One challenge I've always wanted to complete is to limit myself to only using items I can scavenge or loot in the world. That means I can only use items that can be collected from pots or chests, dropped from enemies or bosses, or items that spawn naturally in the world. I'm really excited to see how this challenge goes, so welcome to my life as a scavenger in Terraria. After spawning into a new world, I immediately trash our starter equipment and set out to see what loot I can find along the surface. At this stage, I'm grabbing anything that isn't nailed down. We never know when something might come in useful, so no item will be safe from my insatiable looting craze. After pushing my luck a little too far, we get eaten in the underground jungle by a surprise man-eater. Ah! Oh my gosh! Still, it gives me an opportunity to see if we can craft anything back at spawn. I can make a workbench, anvil, and tungsten pick and an iron bow. Our power is slowly growing. Heading back out, I find a living tree and score a cloud in a bottle for a nice upgrade. Hey look, free walls. I mean, I'll take them if no one else wants them. I strip the surface of the dungeon of every book and lantern in sight. I'm sorry, I'll put it back. And finally, we'll take one more bath in the other ocean to add to our ever-growing pile of precious loot. Speaking of loot, after exploring most of the surface of our world, I need to start organizing our mountains of the stuff. I use some of our scarce wood to make the beginnings of our grand loot gallery. It's quite humble for now, but this is just the beginning. And you better believe I'm not wasting resources on things like chairs for NPCs. Forward for a chair? Forget it. With our scavenge starter base and some basic equipment built, the real looting begins and we can now start spelunking. As well as the usual goals of maxing out our HP with life crystals on our looting world tour, there's a few choice pieces of loot I want to get my hands on. Ah! Oh my gosh, no! The cavern layer provides a huge range of useful items from the underground cabin, such as Hermes boots for a nice movement speed boost. We also get plenty of crafting materials and a nice range of buff potions. Speaking of potions, our newly acquired gravitation potions allow me to take to the skies and steal a star fury from the local harpy population. Don't be mad, huh? We make our way through the jungle, picking up a few nice items like the boomstick and the sharpening station, which will give us a nice boost to our melee damage. I then celebrate our haul with a quick lava bath before moving on. It's really dangerous, but I carefully make my way to the underground desert as there's some great upgrades in there like the bar statue and the ancient chisel, which can help with our exploration. And after I think I'm pretty smart for barely surviving a sandfall trap, I jump straight into another pool of lava. While cooling off back at base, sorting all my loot, the slime rain event begins, so I decide to try my luck at the king slime as I craft some tungsten armor, make a few mana stars, and start whacking the bouncing menaces. Soon enough, the king appears and I keep a fairly safe distance using our Star Fury's fallen star attacks and our wand of sparking to deal nice damage. I play it safe, slowly wearing the king's HP down, and much later that day he finally falls and we snag a slime hook for our troubles, which will be really useful. With our first boss down, I now want to fight more of them, but first we need to sort out our buff potion supply. I forgot to show it on camera earlier, so I returned to the jungle to find another staff of regrowth, as this will be critical for generating more herb seeds. Ooh, cheeky life crystal, don't mind if I do. And I'm dead again. Next I travel around the world collecting a few seeds of each herb type with our new staff. I only need a few of each to get things started. Our next step is to find the ether. It's always on the same side of the world as the jungle, so I pass through the nearby corruption and smash a few orbs for some loot before bombing my way down. Before I head into the ether, I also need to find some frozen chests. Why do I want frozen chests when my current goal is to work on my buff potion supply? You'll see. You'll see. While my buffs are active, I decide to keep looting, and soon enough, we max out our health. Back at base, I start to load up on loot to take to the ether. Shimmer is huge for the scavenger playstyle, as it allows me to decraft my excess loot into their base materials. From furniture to statues and even buff potions I'm unlikely to use, it can all be broken down into extremely useful materials. I can then use the transmute ability to change some of our wood into dirt blocks and the various sand blocks back into regular sand ready for crafting. On a hill near my base, I start to build our potion farm. I've only got a few seeds of the different types, but our staff of regrowth will ensure we have mountains of them in no time. Now we have some stone, I can finally craft a furnace, so I turn some of our precious sand into glass and make some bottles. With the bottle placed in our potion farm, I now have access to craft a few buff potions, which is sure to come in useful. Up until now, our main source of loot has mostly been from chests, but it's time to get our main source of loot farming online: summoning. That's right, summons are one of the best ways of farming mobs in the game, and I need just a bit more Flink's fur to get our first summoner set. Back at base, I craft the Flink's fur coat and the Flink staff, and our next goal is to get the Snapthorn to complete the build. I really want to try my luck taking out Queen Bee, but I think it might be worth farming for a Beezor in the jungle to give me the edge in the battle. Usually I'd set up a farm for this, but there's still a lot of the jungle I haven't explored and my desire for loot is ever growing, so I decide to crash through the jungle with our bloodthirsty Flinks duo leading the charge. Being poisoned in master mode. This is why I want the Beezor, people. Still, my forced trip back to base means I can now craft the Snapthorn and the unruly Flinks will follow my every command. Just as I'm about to settle in for a nice farming session after all this preparation, the Beezor more or less drops straight away. Oh, Terraria, you're such a troll sometimes. The Shield of Cthulhu can be useful against the Queen Bee due to its immunity frame, so I decide to use my suspicious looking eyes to take on the Eye of Cthulhu. My main strategy is to apply On Fire and Frostburn while my Swiftness potion keeps me mostly out of harm's way. The fight goes fairly smoothly and we claim our prize. I'll farm the second eye while we got our buffs on before moving on with our run. Back in the jungle, I blast my way into a hive to prepare a Queen Bee arena while some hornets try to trick me into breaking the lava early. Get away from that! I'm not falling for it! Again. When everything's ready, I sparingly use a few buffs and begin the battle. Using a similar strategy as Eye of Cthulhu, I apply damage over time effects to keep its HP ticking down. I also decide to use my limited supply of shuriken and throwing knives against the bee. In master mode, the Queen Bee rarely sits still for long and these two weapons can dish out a large amount of damage quite quickly for those times she hovers in place. Finally, we take her out, but unfortunately I get the Beekeeper. It's a great weapon, don't get me wrong, but for boss killing I would have preferred the Bee's Knees or the Bee Gun. That said, I noticed I can craft the High Five Yo-Yo. I've never used this before, so I decide to give it a go. After luring another bee back to our arena, the High Five coupled with the Hive Pack is dishing out some serious damage. The second bee falls and we get a huge score with the Bee's Knees bow with the Unreal modifier. Goblins decide to invade me the next morning as I craft a suit of bee armor. Oh my god, get out of my house already! We take a few hits, but our new bee equipment makes short work of the goblins as I send them packing. With that done, it's time to take on the Eater of Worlds. I spend some time preparing an arena using our quickly dwindling supply of platforms. After throwing a sticky bomb at the final orb, I rush back to our arena to unleash my ultimate strategy: throw spiky balls while jumping around like a crazy person. Spiky balls are incredible against Master Mode Eater of Worlds. Not only do they block the highly damaging Vile Spit attack, they also deal huge damage to the boss itself. I swap to my Vile Thorn when there's only a few segments remaining as the boss goes down and we grab a Worm Scarf for our troubles. While sorting my loot back at base, a Blood Moon begins. I'm always up to scavenge some more loot, so I remove the sunflowers from my base and then craft a battle potion to get those mobs spawning really fast. A Shark Tooth necklace drops from a Drippler, which I totally didn't notice at first, but I happily snap it up as I run back and forth farming mobs. Later that night, the Scavenger's best friend drops, the Money Trough. Now I can carry twice the loot when I'm out, permanently borrowing stuff. Speaking of expanding our inventory, I really want to try out the Void Bag and Vault, and to craft them we're gonna need some bones, which means I need to beat Skeletron. I think this is a good time to use all the bee nades I've been collecting. I quickly learned that my previous strategy of rotating through debuff weapons and tanking damage is not gonna fly against the hard-hitting Bag of Bones, so I decide to alternate between firing volleys with our Bee's Knees and lobbing the odd bee nade when the skull starts spinning. After missing a grapple jump, I think I'm done for as a skull smashes into me, but thankfully I managed to scrape through the fight and score a book of skulls for my troubles. Now comes the part I've been looking forward to, looting the dungeon. There's so much for a scavenger to find in here and I can't wait to get started. That said, before I start fully exploring properly, my first goal is to collect 45 bones, which will allow me to craft the Void Bag and Vault. I swing past a demon altar and craft the void items and max out my mana, place the vault back at base and begin my glorious mission. Well, I would've, but a slime Raymond interrupted me, so I decide to quickly do it to try for a slime staff. No luck unfortunately, but the king slime gives me a slimy saddle for my first mount in this run. Returning to the dungeon, I rescue the tavern keep, get cursed by a skull, and then die because I can't drink a potion. Nice. There you go, mechanic. I've saved you. Go free and live your life and... oh. Well, moving on. Oh my god, the goblin! Fear not, I will save you! Okay, round 2. Goblin saved. I'm going to rescue all the NPCs. Oh my god, not again! My next goal is to map out the entire dungeon and mark where all the chests are so I don't miss a single one. Then I start the process of looting everything in my path. Some of the key items I want are the Shadow Key, the Cobalt Shield, an alchemy station, and a bewitching table, and some water candles for farming. A few hours later, the looting is done. Apart from the biome chest and a few banners, I looted everything. I got a lot of nice stuff too, but my small base is bursting at the seams from all this treasure and I'm out of blocks to expand it with. Thankfully, there's a small amount of blocks that can be looted in Terraria. I start by using up our remaining bombs to clear out a huge mob farm near the granite biome. There's two reasons I want to do this. Firstly, the granite golems and elementals have a 100% chance to drop granite blocks. Even better, those can be transmuted into marble blocks using shimmer, which I think will be perfect for our grand loot gallery. I'll also want a mob farm for hard mode anyway, so I may as well get it built now. As an added bonus, I can farm undead miners now for extra bombs and the mining set. The great thing with granite enemies is you only need a single block of granite for them to spawn. This way I can easily toggle my farm to spawn granite enemies by removing it when I've got enough granite. With our farming done for now, I swing past the shimmer to decraft a bunch of stuff as well as transmute all our granite into marble blocks as we've got some construction to do. Using our new mining set, I flatten out an area near our starter base as while I'd like the spot my base is in, I'd like to do a complete rebuild to better organize all our loot. After 3 hours, I tell myself to stop decorating, but it's so satisfying. I upgrade to a nightmare pick as we're about to raid the underworld. We even get a visit from Tim, so I borrow his hat. My goal is to loot all the pots and chests in the underworld as there's some really useful stuff down here. Thankfully, obsidian skin potions can be looted down here to help me navigate all the hellstone houses. With the underworld completely looted, I check out my haul. We've got some nice weapons, some potions, and a bunch of hellfire arrows which will surely come in useful. Speaking of arrows, I decide to craft a necro set as I think it's time to give the ranger class some love. I zoom out for our wall of flesh battle as we give the doll a nice lava bath. My strategy is to keep my distance and alternate between volleys of hellfire arrows and then lobbing a beanade or two. By staying further away from the wall, the lasers are a little easier to dodge. Soon enough, the wall falls and we use the demon heart for our 7th accessory slot and get the firecracker whip, which is perfect as I have the perfect idea for the start of hard mode. I'm having so much fun as a scavenger so far, and with hard mode here, the real scavenging is just getting started. If you'd like to see us continue into hard mode, smash that like button and let me know in the comments what I should focus on first. If you're enjoying our videos, make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay tuned for more fun videos like this. And here's the most important part as always, you'll stay happy and I'll see you soon. This is Happy Days signing out. See ya!